is I don't have much time. This message is being looped on all temporal frequencies. If you can hear this, the world is lost. Humanity is dwindling and we are the last of our kind. We ignored the signs. It started off so slow, but gradually the machines started becoming more and more like us until it was too late. Keep this warning. Don't let them in. Don't listen to them.
Hey, Jerry, you're...
Don't listen to them. How y'all doing, everyone? Scott Reece with Rob Cardosi. You are listening to The Rabbit Hole with Cardosi and Reece. I want to welcome everyone. Rob, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great today, brother. How was your weekend off?
My weekend off was great. Went to Florida, hung out with some friends from the Marine Corps, and talked about old times, you know?
That's cool.
Yeah. 40 years ago. I got out 40 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
See, you and my dad would have a lot to talk about. You know what I'm saying?
Your dad's a jarhead.
Yes, he was.
That's great. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody has to do it.
32 years. He spent 32 years in the Marine Corps and came out a full bird colonel.
Wow. Great.
Yeah.
I went in and came out an E3, baby. I only got busted once. Just once.
Well, you know, my father actually told me a very funny story. You know, he was in San Diego and he was out. Him and his friends were out drinking one day, and he had his motorcycle, and he went riding on the beach. Well, he wiped out because he was drunk out of his mind, and he was scared to death to go to sick call because he didn't want to get thrown in the brig for damaging government property.
Which is him.
Yeah. Which he had he had a burn on the side of his leg, the side of his tailpipe from his motorcycle. Well, the only reason why he ended up going to sick call was because it started smelling like almonds, and he was afraid he was going to lose his leg because he had gangrene setting in.
Hey, you know, no one wants to get in trouble in the Marine Corps.
That's true. That's true.
Very true. All right, Rob, why don't you tell the audience what we do? What are we doing here at the Rabbit Hole?
Rabbit hole, we go down just about any deep dive into deep rabbit holes, from music to movies to TV, anything. My daughter likes to say that I am the professor of all things music, so hopefully you get to learn a little. Hopefully you'll get to learn a little bit from us. You can laugh with us. You can debate us. You can do whatever you want. There's nothing that we will not talk to you about. So strap in and get ready for this week's show.
Yeah.
This week,
what are we talking about? What are we talking about?
This week, I think we're going to look at how videos have changed over the years. You know, from the very first ones to the way they did it to the way it just evolved over the years. And it's kind of, in my opinion, going back to what it used to be. You know, most people don't know this, that the Beatles are actually accredited for doing the first music videos. And what it was little promo clips that they would send to like Ed Sullivan and, you know, just the TV shows of the era so they could promote themselves. That's what they were originally for, was to promote the band.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they started getting out more and more. But it was just them, you know, playing live.
Right.
And then that evolved. But they say the person that is accredited to the first commercial video, and Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan. All right.
Yeah, 1965, Bob Dylan is credited with the first, I guess you'd say, first commercial type video, and that was with the video "Don't Look Back," where he was flipping over the cue cards.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. I do remember that.
They consider that to be the first
video.
Yeah, the first video.
Well, probably different. They had different cameras or more cameras, 2 cameras, 3 cameras, maybe. You know, different perspective. And, I mean, who would have thought that, you know, the 60s bands would be so rare to have a video of them. You know what I mean? Like you said,
right.
The Beatles started it, but back then they would record something and go, oh, wow, that was whatever. We recorded Jimi Hendrix. Big deal. Who's this guy? And then
Right.
it's a rare find, that, oh, my God, I was Jimi Hendrix at Winterland and who would have thunk back then that it would be so relevant?
Right, right. I mean, just think about, going back to Woodstock. Luckily, we had people running around with cameras back then because they weren't thinking, hey, we can make this little short clip and start showing it on TV. They were just trying to
document it. They were just
document it.
Right.
Which turned into the music videos. So people, of my era who didn't get to go to the original Woodstock, they got to see.
You cherish that. You know what I mean? You didn't get there, but now you get to watch it.
Yeah, and it's in some instances it's almost like reliving it for some people.
Oh, yeah.
People that never got to see Jimi Hendrix play, or these kids nowadays that have never actually seen Jimmy, and then you show them a clip of him playing at the Monterey Pop Festival when he's burning his guitar and
with lighter fluid.
Yeah, and you're like, wow, they didn't have special effects back then. This is what this man did to make the show more interesting.
Correct. And then, from then on, they would, televise live, like, what was it, Don Kirshner rock concert. I used to watch that all the time. The midnight special, and you would see Kiss and AC/DC, and, that's live. But that isn't. We're shooting toward the video the bands do. They're videos of live acts, but they really didn't get into a story. Like you said, it was Bob Dylan, but then like acting and having that came with MTV, which we are getting to.
Right, and I think a lot of that has to do with, believe it or not, I think the first video, I could be wrong about this, and if anybody has the one that's older or an older storied video, I think it would be Bohemian Rhapsody, the way Queen did it. That was one of the first videos that I can remember, like, showing a storyline. It wasn't just them on stage playing. It showed them doing different things.
Peter Gabriel. Peter Gabriel with Genesis. They did some weird stuff, walking around with costumes and that. They did. Everyone was trying to find their way and find what was going to be the next thing to get their music out there. You know what I mean? There's a whole new thing, television. It went from radio. Oh my God! Now we can get our faces on there.
Right.
And now we can get creative. And I think like Michael Jackson got very creative. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
That was like a movie, which it was.
Yeah.
It was a movie.
Yeah, when Thriller hit the scene, oh my God, that changed everything. That was literally a mini movie.
It was. Definitely.
I think the original Thriller, wasn't it like 22 minutes long for the video?
I'm not sure on that.
And then they cut it down so they could show it more often on MTV, which, in 1981, I remember staying up and waiting for midnight to hit so I could watch MTV for the very first time just to see what it was. And at 12:01, I still remember hearing "Video Killed the Radio Star."
Yeah.
And then now everybody knows that was their first video, but who knows what the second video was?
Tom Petty. I have no idea.
It was Fish Heads. Remember that song? Fish heads, roly poly, fish heads.
No.
Yes, that was the second video.
I do not remember that one. But video, I think. And then when Kiss came around, I think they changed the shock value, or Alice Cooper too. So Alice Cooper was first. But they brought that theatrical, the vaudeville. They brought a show, a stage show.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't just something you playing some music and this, that, and the other. They were actually reaching out and grabbing you and wanting to hold you right there in your face and say, "Watch us." You
Right.
know, we aren't just a band, a musical band. We're an experience. We're a musical experience. You
And,
know,
yeah. Agreed. Agreed 100%. I think the MTV brought out the spectacle of music. You know what I mean? They brought it out, and a band could go from nothing to today, put their album out, nothing, put a video out. Guess what? You're on heavy rotation on MTV. Now you're on a big tour. You know, you become, what everyone wants to be, a rock star.
right, definitely. You know, and then that's also the place where I can remember staying up late at night and you remember Headbangers Ball.
I do, definitely. I would wait for that. I had a shirt, everything.
Yeah, well, one year I remember staying up, and I want to say it was right around Halloween time, and I don't know why I remember it being Halloween time, but after Headbangers Ball, they wanted you to stay tuned because for the first time in history, they were actually going to show Pink Floyd The Wall on TV.
Wow.
And I remember staying up just to watch Pink Floyd The Wall.
Great movie.
Great.
Great movie.
Yeah, and that is just one huge, if you want to get technical, that's just one huge 2.5 hour long music video.
True. Very true.
You know, and just seeing some of the videos that would blow my mind, because that was your first, before, like we've said so many times, before MTV, all we had were magazines.
Correct.
Before the internet and stuff like that. So we didn't know what, most of the time didn't even know what most of the musicians look like.
That's
you
right.
know?
Yeah. They weren't really performers. They were great artists. 70s music, great. 60s, love it. But they were more. Kiss was what, 76? So can't say that.
Yeah.
But I think it was all boiling toward MTV to just unleash, a whole new genre, a new way to sell yourself, which was a 3-minute video, and put all your money into it, and hopefully it's going to pay off.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And then I remember being so excited for MTV showing the very first VMAs.
Right.
That was phenomenal. It was just seeing that was the day that the Spaceman was born.
Right.
The video award, which I, by the way, actually have one. So, that was a great thing for me. Yes, we received a video award in 1988 with Brittany Fox's Girls' School.
That's who we're talking to, guys. Rob Cardosi of Brittany Fox.
Yes. And it's I remember seeing when I got when I first time I saw it, it was, I think Madonna hosted the very first VMAs and everything like that, if I'm not correct. But I remember seeing the little spaceman going, someday I'm going to have one of them. And believe it or not, I cherish my VMA more than I do my Grammy.
Right.
I know that's a little bit weird, but it is true because, you had to, the people actually voted on the VMAs. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't record executives. It wasn't, record companies and stuff like that. The people actually voted for it. So they're the ones that gave us that award. So it meant more to me than just something that a record company decided. Said, well, they sold this many copies of the album, so give it to them. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Correct.
But, and then, there were so many different things that MTV did. Like, what was it? What year was it? I'm not really sure on the exact year. I think it was like 84, 85, when two separate genres of music kind of melded for the first time. and that was one of the biggest world premieres, and it became one of the most played videos on MTV. And could you, by any chance, guess who that was?
Ask the question one more time. Be more.
Which
Okay.
which music video of of the joining of two different genres made its premiere in 1984 on MTV?
Aerosmith and Run DMC.
Exactly.
I had to think. I heard half of the question. I was like, wait a minute. Yes, come on, that was great. That actually really recharged Aerosmith, because they were they were not doing too good from about '79. You know, they had their personal problems, and I think that really brought him back. And from what I remember, Run DMC is like, I don't want to do that. We ain't doing that. You know, coming up, you know, we ain't doing that song, and you know that's what really broke them.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, that's the song. That's about the time that Joe actually came back into the band,
Right?
And Jimmy Crespo left the band again.
Right.
You know,
They got the band back together.
Right, exactly. So, you know, how do we know that that would have ever happened if it weren't for MTV? And then, you know, we can thank MTV for many, many different things like that. You know, that brings us into what was it, 1989, 1990, they came out with MTV Unplugged.
Right. And that changed everything again, because they were, you know, now it's a whole new. It sounds different. That heavy song they did now sounds really nice and sweet. And Alice in Chains, I think, was my favorite acoustic version that they did, that MTV did. My favorite.
Not mine.
Who's that? Who's your favorite?
Kiss.
Yeah.
I remember me and Ace being invited to do Kiss
if
Unplugged.
you were there, never mind. You were there. Never mind. That has to be, that tops everything. Go ahead, Rob.
And from that, I remember it was funny. It was funny. Great, great, great night. I got to meet Peter Criss for the very first time. Okay. And that was so great. And Ace was drunk off his ass.
No, come on.
Because, you know, this was before the rehab years. But because of that is where the reunion tour sparked from.
Correct.
Bringing Ace and Peter back into the fold. Because that was such a big hit. It so many people tuned in just to watch that. And nobody knew Ace and Peter were going to be there.
Didn't they do the Kiss, all the fans would get together, and then they had the same thing about Peter Criss and Ace showed up?
Yeah, they would do the Kiss cons.
That's right. Yes.
Which is where the Kiss Army and everybody, that is all evolved into the Kiss. Yeah, the trade shows.
Correct.
And that's what gave them the idea when they did their Unplugged to bring Ace and Peter back.
Well,
they kept hinting that there was going to be a big surprise at the end of the show, and that was it.
And then who introduced Kiss at the MTV Awards when they came out with makeup the first time, in whatever year they did it? What, 97, something like that, 6?
Yeah, that was, oh my God, I'm blanking on his name.
Tupac.
I can't remember.
It was Tupac. Tupac Shakur. Yep.
Yeah.
He brought him out.
I could see his face. I just couldn't remember his name. I know that's terrible, people, you know, but I'll be honest with you. I am the professor of all things music, except I'm not that big on rap.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. I got you on that one. I got you. I think that should be maybe a segment, is like Stump the Trunk. We could do,
Stump the Professor.
Yeah.
There you go.
Let me think about that. By the end of the show, I'll have what we're going to call it.
Okay, cool.
So what So what I think of MTV, I think of like bands you all of a sudden they're just right on your your 12-inch black and white screen right there,
Right.
Back in 1981, I think it accelerated genres. You know what I mean? All of a sudden now metal. Remember Motley Crue came out, and then everybody was that way. Before it was just kind of music. You know what I mean? There was soul music, there was rock music, there was this music. And then when MTV, you're like, I want to dress like that. I want to have long hair with a bandana and I want
t-shirts.
I want to look like Madonna. I want to look like Madonna. How many girls went the Madonna route, or guys who wear the stretch pants and it created a visual instead of being just listening.
Right.
And MTV, really accelerated how that went. And then people became rock stars. You know what I mean? Like old school Beatles.
Right.
They became overnight. Poison is the cutest girls around,
Yeah.
You had then the record companies said, hey, if we put money into the video, we can sell more albums. Motley Crue, longer hair, higher hair, tighter pants, better videos. And then you had like a 3-minute movie, which was great. And that was good.
Right. Definitely. And, there was so much. MTV, you got to give it. They were so much there for the very first time of everything. Think about it. They were there the first time Kiss Unmasked.
True.
And,
with two guys, only two. Come on.
Well, two of the originals.
Right.
You kind of got it. Eric Carr was actually the drummer longer than Peter Criss ever was. So, but then again, Eric Singer's been a drummer in the band longer than both of them.
Correct.
But yeah, it was. I remember seeing it. It was Paul, Gene, Eric, and everybody's favorite Kiss guitar player, Vinnie Vincent.
Vinnie Vincent. Yeah, whatever happened to him? He tried to sell his album. You had to pay like $1,000.
No, he was trying to sell his album for $4 million.
How'd that work out?
Not too good.
I didn't think so. But, I think Kiss had the mystique. You didn't know what they looked like. They could do, they were like gods, rock gods. And I think the 80s with MTV brought in the rock gods. Oh, my God, Motley Crue or Poison or,
Wasp.
Wasp, yeah, definitely, and it created different subcultures. there was punk, there's goth, there's dark metal, black metal, but
that's the first time I ever, I was a hard rock guy. I loved hard rock. Or back in the day, it wasn't even called hard rock then. It was called acid rock.
Right.
When I first started listening to it, which would be Led Zeppelin and Steppenwolf and stuff like that, and then then Black Sabbath came in with the hard rock, and then I discovered this whole new genre, thrash metal.
Thrash.
I heard Anthrax and went, Metallica. I like that.
Metallica, and Metallica was my first. I remember I was into Rush and all that. Mm-hmm. And then I started, MTV started molding me towards, different types of music, Police, all that.
Yeah.
But then I heard Metallica the first time and I was like, what in the hell is that? And it took a little bit to grow on me, but once it did, it was like there was no looking back. There was no more, pop metal or anything. I just went kind of head into, Master of Puppets.
I got
Pantera. When I hit Pantera, oh my God, what a band!
I actually credit, and I have told James this to his face, by the way. I credit Metallica to giving me my first speeding ticket.
I can definitely see that.
I was cruising in my old 78 Trans Am that I had, cruising down the interstate, jamming to Master of Puppets. And I got pulled over. I heard the lights click on or come up behind me, and the woo. I looked down. I was doing 120 down the interstate. I was like, I'm going to jail.
Yeah.
Luckily, the cop just gave me. He's like, I could take you to jail, take your license, impound your car, but here's a ticket for $200. I was like, at the time, I'm 16 years old. I'm like, you can just take my car. I ain't got $200.
Yeah, and MTV changed everything. I think because of what they did, they brands. All of a sudden, brands. If you wore a T-shirt that said, whatever, then Metallica would wear a Misfits, and everyone would go, "Who the hell are the Misfits?" Why are those guys wearing that T-shirt? And then that band becomes popular,
Right.
And then beer companies, I don't know,
right, and then all the other genres started seeing that. Okay, well, MTV is very popular, so let's do something that's more geared for the adults. And they come out with VH1.
There you go.
Which is more of a yacht rock style of music. They were playing stuff like Air Supply and, Barry Manilow videos and stuff like that. And then, can't leave out country, so they come out with CMT.
Correct.
And we got a country music television. And then somewhere down the line, all three of them went completely off the rails and gave us something even new that was exciting at first, and then it took over, and that was reality TV.
Yes, and that that was what the real world. That was the first real world. They put 8 people together, and then they really went away from the music. After that, it was more TV, Ozzy, which was great, which I love the Osbournes. That was great.
Yeah, and remember Gene Simmons' Family Jewels? I used to watch that all the time. And some of the shows were pretty good because they were still based around music. And then, but where were the years like I started missing the music. I started missing the years where I looked forward to every year that they would do a Live Aid concert.
Yeah, the live that became, they were able to check it out or video it because the technology was getting better, the sound was getting better, and now they're seeing how many people they could cram into a stadium, and
right.
MTV was just right there all the time, always pushing bands, and I think that was the beauty of it. And then they go, well, you know what? People could go to YouTube. Was even YouTube, back then, people don't understand who are listening that you couldn't just, oh man, you hear a song on the radio and go, oh man, I'm going to check out their video on YouTube, or I'm going to go to Facebook and check out their, that was not there.
No, we had to sit there and wait and hope they played them. You had to hope that their video was in rotation, and you had to sit there and wait and watch it. Yeah. And I can remember. I feel lucky. I feel very lucky that thanks to MTV, I got to see one of the greatest musical performances of all time.
What's that?
And that was Queen at Wembley Stadium.
Oh, at the what was that? The Feed the Africa one, or what was that one?
Yeah, Feed the Feed the Children.
Bob Geldof.
Yeah, Feed the Children. That was one of the first Live Aids, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that was being simultaneously broadcast in not only in Wembley but in
Philadelphia,
England. Yeah, and what's funny is Phil Collins performed at both.
Yeah, not very well. Not very well with Led Zeppelin. Or something was off. Something was not right.
Yeah,
If you saw that.
but it was cool that he played at Wembley, then got on the Concorde and flew to Philadelphia and got on stage there too.
Correct.
That had never been done before.
Never been done. Correct.
You know, so you're seeing all these firsts, and you got to thank MTV for it. You know, and then of course we all know what happened on December 31st, 2025. MTV goes off the air.
Is it? Did it?
The music video channel actually went off the air on December 31st, 2025. And the last video they showed was Video Killed the Radio Star.
No, it should have been The Internet Killed the Radio Star.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, but with MTV and everything, that kind of leads us to a little bit of sad news we all got over the past, 2 days.
Yes.
And everything like that. And that was the loss of a very dear friend of mine, Mr. Frank Beard of ZZ Top.
Yeah, great.
You know, I remember the first time I ever met the guys in ZZ Top. It was at the 1996 Billboard Music Awards. And I wasn't playing or anything like that. Believe it or not, I was just hanging out with a few friends of mine backstage, and I got to meet ZZ Top. And became great friends with them and everything like that. I still have the drumsticks that Frank gave me.
Wow.
After their performance. And what I loved about their performance was a lot of people don't realize that these a lot of the award shows, they do what's called live plus track, because it's better for TV. And that's where the music is usually tracked, but the vocals are live.
Right.
But ZZ Top refused it. They said they would not go on stage unless they were playing live. And Billboard Music Awards bowed down to them and said, fine, you can do it. But they accredit MTV with being a reinsertion of ZZ Top.
Oh, yeah, because they were just a blues band in the 70s with nothing. I mean, they were great musicians, but they didn't have that spark. And I think MTV definitely made them. Whoever did their creative videos, genius. He's a genius.
Yeah. In fact, I remember talking to Billy and stuff and asking him, how did you guys come up with your videos? They were so much different than everybody else's. And he said, well, we talked to different directors, and we decided long ago, we accepted the fact that we weren't your typical rock star looking people. So we wanted to have characters in the videos, and we were just the people observing the video. So it was like it was happening around us. And I'm like, well, it was genius, because who out there doesn't realize, who doesn't remember the 34 Ford?
Yes.
Definitely. And those legs coming out of it from the girls and everything like that. It was just phenomenal the way that they did their videos. And at one time, I think they were some of the highest grossing, thanks to MTV. I think it was what year was, I think it's 1989 was the Accelerator Tour.
Right.
Okay, 1989, then they were one of the top grossing tours in the country.
Definitely.
And it's because of their videos being played so much on MTV. And
well, let's see. The director of the Give Me All Your Lovin', Sharp Dressed Man, and Legs is Tim Newman. We also have Steve Barron did Sleeping Bag, Give It Up. Julian Temple did Pincushion, and Adam Bernstein did Burger Man. And
there you go.
They, the Eliminator car, the hot girls. That was ZZ Top, and I mean, who doesn't like fast cars, good-looking women, and great music? And I think that's ZZ Top, and yeah, definitely Frank Beard. Rest in peace, my friend.
Yeah, and it still blows my mind to this day. The only man in the band that didn't have a beard was named Beard.
Frank Beard.
Yeah,
Definitely. And from what I understand, they are going to continue touring.
Yes, they are. We all know that we lost Dusty,
Right.
in July of 2021. And Billy wanted, Dusty wanted Billy to continue with the band. And so Billy did honor his wishes, and he actually hired Elwood, who was Billy's bass tech, to become a member of the band and take over, for Dusty. And I think he's done a phenomenal job. I've seen him since then, and it's great. They didn't miss a single beat. Now granted, the atmosphere is a little bit different, without Dusty there, but it's still, the vibe is still there. You know what I'm saying?
Still the guitar player, and he's basically the singer also. So
Yeah.
So, that is probably, to me, if you have the same guitar player, you have the same singer, the singer is, to me, except for maybe AC/DC or a couple other bands like that, the singer and the guitar player are important. Don't you think?
Right. Yeah, very much so. The singer and the guitar player, they're pretty much the fingerprint of the band.
Agreed.
You can duplicate a lot of different things, but those are the two things that can never be duplicated.
Agreed.
I've talked to a few people that used to, that are from Texas. My uncle lives down in Texas and everything like that, and he lives just outside of Austin. And they used to go to this club called the Catacomb. And he remembers seeing ZZ Top playing there in like 71, 72. But they weren't actually called ZZ Top then.
What was their name?
ZZ King.
And when did they change their name?
Later on, when they just started touring and getting a little more famous, Billy said he decided that the top of the heap was a king, so that's why they became ZZ Top instead of ZZ King. Because a lot of people think they got their name ZZ Top from Zigzags and Top the Rolling Paper.
Right.
That is not true. That is not true at all. I heard it from the horse's mouth himself, Billy Gibbons. And if you're listening, brother, because I do send these to Billy every week, so he does hear these.
Oh, nice. Hey, Billy. Hey, Billy. How you doing?
Because he does live here in Vegas. Now, he told me from the horse's mouth that the name of ZZ Top came from honoring B.B. King and all the blues musicians. So they just picked the ZZ because it was the last letters in the alphabet. So they went with ZZ King. But then later on decided to change it to ZZ Top.
BB King. Maybe BB King, huh?
Yeah.
Huh.
So it's actually a tribute to BB.
All right. I have a question for the professor of all things music. Name the top 10 videos played from the 80s to the 90s on MTV 10. What you think?
The top 10 music videos?
Yep.
I'd have to say one of them would be Thriller.
Okay. One.
Give Me All Your Lovin'. Speaking of...
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Like a Virgin?
There you go. Madonna.
Oh, let me think.
I'd say 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 or kind of new wavy, not hard rock or metal, and the other one right below number 1, which is Michael Jackson, is a phenomenal artist.
I'd have to say, just because a little hint you gave me, I'm saying Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Nope.
No?
Nope. It's a solo artist is number 2.
Number 2.
Very purple.
Oh, Prince.
Yep.
Prince, okay. What about Sledgehammer?
No.
by Peter Gabriel. Wasn't that?
No.
Wouldn't that be one? Because I can remember always seeing that one.
Constant. That was like a year, a year of Sledgehammer. All right, I'll give you from the top. Number 10 is REM.
Oh, okay.
REM. Number 9, U2. Number 8 is The Cure. Number 7, Depeche Mode. Number 6.
Would that be Personal Jesus?
Yep.
Okay.
Number 6, Duran Duran.
Hungry Like a Wolf.
Yep.
Okay.
Dire Straits is number 5. Number 4 is The Police. And then Madonna, Prince, and Michael Jackson. So,
Wow.
Yeah, Metallica is number, where is it? 30. Peter Gabriel, 22. Billy Idol, 19. Talking Heads, 14. Soundgarden. Elton John, 23rd. Queen, 24th. Motley Crue, 32. Poison, 33. Kiss, 35. Van Halen. Van Halen, they did more live, the early, you know what I mean? With Sammy Hagar and Van Hagar or Van Halen. Okay, And what is your choice? Van Hagar, Van Halen?
Van Halen.
Yeah, they were more of like a kick you in the face band, and then Van Hagar was great music. They had number 1 hits, they had all that, but it went more kind of into the genre of the later 80s. Great songs.
They were more Van Hagar was more of, in my opinion, more of a radio band.
Correct. Agreed. 100%. 100%.
So very, very good. Once again, very good friends with Sammy. And great musician. I loved him in everything he's ever done. I think he's a phenomenal guitar player, but I prefer David Lee.
I agree.
But then when David tried to went out on his own, it just kind of flopped,
Correct.
So,
and I think I liked early Sammy Hagar, the Red album was All Night Long. That is probably, Montrose, obviously Montrose.
Yes.
But I remember going in the 9th grade, walking by, this guy had this boom box and he's just jamming this song, and I'm like, Red, and I'm like, who the hell is that? And then that's Sammy Hagar, and jumped down. Then I jumped down that rabbit hole.
Well, with me, my first introduction to Sammy, believe it or not, was MTV with the I Can't Drive 55 video.
Okay.
That's the first time I'd ever heard of Sammy.
Oh, okay.
And for Christmas that year, my grandma asked me, what do you want for Christmas? I want this album by Sammy Hagar. Okay.
I saw them that tour. They brought a Trans Am out. They all had the yellow jumpsuits on,
the driver suits.
Yes.
Yeah. So, my grandmother, being in her 70s, had no idea who Sammy Hagar is, but she knew the name, but she didn't know his hits was on I Can't Drive 55. So she did actually buy me a Sammy Hagar tape. Yes, not CD, tape.
Really? 8-track, probably.
Yeah. No, it was a regular cassette tape, but it was 3-lock box.
There you go.
And I put that in, and the minute I heard that, money talks, suckers walk, but you can't touch me, I fell in love.
Do you know what a 3-lock box is?
Actually, no, I don't.
It is what the rich traveled with in a ship back in the day, and they would have 3 different people would have a key for it. And
so it was like their steam trunks.
Correct. So no one could get into it without 3 locks, being able to do all 3 locks, and they call it a 3-lock box because I watched it at about 3:30 in the morning the other day on Stump the Trunk. Just like that's the only reason I know that, because Sammy Hagar was like, nope, because they thought it was something sexual or something, something like that. But nope, he's like, nope, it was a box, and I liked the way it, it sounded, obviously.
Cool.
Sammy Hagar.
Cool.
Sammy, but great. I think every genre of music in the 80s had their place,
Yes,
it was
it did.
Madonna, it was the metal, it was Motley Crue, it was, and they changed. You could just go, oh, I know what that guy's into, or I know that girl's into Madonna, you know what I mean? You could, it just kind of took over fashion.
Like it just started defining everything about us, but was actually kind of funny in the same token, because I remember sitting on the tour buses and looking out at all these people coming to our shows, dressing like way we dressed on stage, right?
Right.
Thinking that we dressed like that all the time.
Correct. And
when we weren't on stage, we were in jeans and a t-shirt.
Right.
We were nice and comfortable. We didn't dress the same way we did on stage, but nobody.
You're an act. You are supposed to be a stage. That's what it is. You go on the stage and act out your part, and there you go. You're a show. You're a show.
Everybody knows. I'm me, but when I'm on stage, I'm not me.
Right. You're a character. You're a character.
I'm playing a character. Hence why 90% of us all had stage names. Because that was our character.
Right.
You're
playing a part. You're playing a part.
You've straight out said, that you've told everybody, yes, I was in Brittany Fox. But everybody, if you look up Brittany Fox, you will not see my name. You will see my name as Michael Kelly Smith.
Yep.
So that was my stage persona. And that was, in the words of Stephen Percy, that was the Concrete Pirate.
Really? Why?
Yeah.
Concrete Pirate. Why?
Because I used to wear Revolutionary War jackets and stuff like that. And he said I remind him of a pirate. So he said I was the Concrete Pirate because I'd never been on a ship in my life.
Oh, that's cool. Great.
Yeah,
great.
I used to wear the real tall boots that came up to my knees, in the Revolutionary War jackets and the fluffy pirate shirts. So he would call me a concrete pirate.
I don't want to be a pirate.
Yeah.
That's Seinfeld. Sorry, that's a Seinfeld little reference.
Yep.
A puffy shirt.
Yep.
You're a pirate if you had a puffy shirt.
Yep.
And another thing I think that changed with MTV is radios started following MTV. You know what I mean? That would be played on rock radio, whatever the top 20 videos were before the radio director was going, nope, we're playing these guys and these guys. And now it's like, no, why don't we play the populars that's on MTV? And I think that created a whole new genre for FM radio,
Yeah.
Definitely. And MTV changed everything. People don't, like I said, they don't know that because you could just look it up. You hear a new band, you're like, oh my God, I want to hear these guys. Well, now I got to wait around. I don't know where to get their album. Right now, I could go, oh wow, look, they have a video on right now. Oh, I know these guys. But
yeah.
It wasn't like that then, and I think that created the mystique of music. But you only saw them on MTV.
Yeah, because I remember, looking forward to every week listening to Casey Kasem's American Top 40. But then MTV started coming out with the top 20 video countdown.
Right.
And it's like, I stopped listening to Casey Kasem and I started watching the videos.
Correct.
Because not only was I getting a visual, I was getting to hear the music too. I remember thinking how, who was it, like seeing Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney doing Say,
Correct.
you know, and thinking, wow, they're like in the gangster era. They can live out their lives. And now the song kind of tells a story about this, that, and the other thing. And that's what it was. It was a story.
Yeah, they created a movie, little mini movies.
But if you notice nowadays, we're getting back to where the videos are more of them playing live again.
True.
So you're seeing the concerts and stuff like that. Granted, like Disturbed, they did a really good video for Sounds of Silence. That was a very beautiful, very touching video. But 90% of all their other videos are just them playing live on stage. You don't see the storylines anymore. Like, remember Welcome to the Jungle, the kid getting off the bus and, welcome to the jungle. You're in Los Angeles now. This ain't the cornfield,
You're going to die.
Yeah. And you got that storyline. Or even, I remember one of my favorite videos of all time has got to be November Rain by Guns N' Roses.
Right.
And I was lucky enough, I got to go actually out to the church where they filmed it with Todd Kearns, and we took a picture outside the church dressed with both of our guitars, trying to act like Slash. So it was kind of fun.
Hey, what the hell? Who doesn't want to be like Slash? Come on, who doesn't?
Yeah.
Wow. So I think MTV changed everything. I mean, imagine being in a band in your garage and, we want to go on MTV. Next thing you know, you're on MTV. You're living the dream. And I mean, who doesn't want to do that? And I think that's what happened for bands in the 80s. They got on MTV. They looked good. They sounded good. And they reaped the reward. And I think that is the ultimate. That's what it's all about. You're living the dream.
Yeah. Do you remember back in the 80s when Anthrax was running have Anthrax at your party?
Bring the noise. Yeah. Bring them to your house. Like that. Bring them to your house. Yes.
And they actually did it. And they showed it up at some kid's house.
Yeah.
And did a concert.
Up. Yes. I did.
And destroyed the entire house.
And MTV, I don't think, did that again.
No, because it cost them a pretty penny. They got sued so hard.
Hey, it's only rock and roll, right?
Yeah.
It's only rock and roll.
Think about it. You just gave your kid the okay to join this contest so Anthrax might come to my house because they're just all wholesome American boys.
I interviewed Frank Bello. Very, very nice guy. He had a new bass for Ibanez. Great guy.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I got to hang out with Scott Ian a few times. Like when they did the thing with Rob Zombie at the Kiss Awards that they were honoring, the Kiss honoring, and when they came out with the Gods of Thunder, Scott actually was playing one of Gene's basses, and Ace went out and played with them.
I saw that. I did.
That was a lot of fun. So,
and you were there, and Rob.
Yeah,
was
actually, there's a funny story behind that. They were going to do it. And then Ace was backstage, and Rob went up to Ace and said, "Hey, we could use another guitar player." He goes, "Well, I don't have a guitar, brother." He goes, "Come on." And finally, Rob Zombie convinced Ace to do this, right? So he hands me a credit card. Ace pulls out his credit card, hands it to me, and says, "I need you to go find me a guitar right now." So I opened up the phone book, and I started calling. I'm like, "Do you have an Ace Frehley signature guitar?" No. Okay. Do you have an Ace Frehley? No. Do you have an Ace Frehley? And finally somebody said, "Yeah, we have a blue one." So I was like, "I'll be there in 10 minutes." I got there. I went and bought the guitar, brought the guitar back. Ace played it.
Cool.
And that guitar is still sitting in my collection to this day.
How many guitars do you have?
I have 115 different guitars.
Holy shit. Really? 100. I have like 5.
Yes, I have 115 guitars, and 82 of them are Les Pauls.
So you do not like Les Pauls, I guess, right?
Nah, they're firewood.
Yeah. They're crap. I don't want. Why would I own 82 pieces of crap? No, Les Paul is the ultimate.
I have one. I have one from I have one of the original 1956 Les Pauls, all the way up to my newest one, which was a 2022 studio Les Paul.
Wow, nice.
And a whole bunch of in between.
A whole bunch.
And
they're
I think, they are a lot heavier.
They're a lot heavier. Yeah.
But I got so used to being around them, with Ace and everything like that. I fell in love with them because originally I actually didn't like them. I liked BC Rich's.
Okay.
But then Ace, being around him and playing with his guitars and stuff like that, they had a more of a warm tone to them. And even if it's real funny with a Les Paul, you can get the same Les Paul made in the same factory, the same year, the same color, the same everything, but it'll sound totally different. Well, one will have a warmer sound than the other one.
And it's the and the guitar player.
It's the guitar player. It's the wood. It's something about the wood. Some of them have more sustain than other ones. Others have a warmer tone. I think, in my opinion, and everybody is free to have their own opinion, but there is no better guitar than a Les Paul.
True. All right. What are we going to be doing our 6 degrees of separation on today?
We're going to do our 6 degrees of separation, keeping on the kind of MTV vibe. There was a band out there that most people you may not know, but you do know them. And that was Eddie and the Cruisers.
Who?
But Eddie and the Cruisers weren't a real band. They were a fictional band for a movie. The actual band was called John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band.
That is right. And I remember watching that movie like, yeah, I love these songs. These are cool.
Yeah.
And no one knew who they were. And then they didn't like them when they found out it wasn't Eddie and the Cruisers. How did that work?
Well, they started out in Rhode Island in in the 70s and everything like that, and they're a really big popular band, as far as the college, because where they were around there was like 4 or 5 different colleges, but they never got their big break because everybody kept comparing them to Bruce Springsteen.
Got it.
Because John does sound an awful lot like Bruce Springsteen.
He does.
But
working class man,
Right, a working class man. But later on, this movie producer came in and said, we're doing this movie. We'd love for you to, do the soundtrack for it. So he went in and they recorded the soundtrack for Eddie and the Cruisers.
Right.
And believe it or not, they started playing On the Dark Side, which was the big hit from the movie.
Right.
I mean, there were a number of hits, of course, Tender Years, Run Around Sue, and stuff like that. But On the Dark Side was the biggest hit. Well, it became the number 1 played video on MTV.
Right.
So they got offered their first real big record deal after that. And I remember, watching an interview with Dick Clark did with John Cafferty on American Bandstand, and him saying that he really never even watched the movie because it was hard for him to realize that, that was a band doing his music, not him doing another band's music.
Correct.
So he never really got into it. But as far as, like I have someone really special in my life that suggested this whole topic of how band musics have changed movies. Because if it weren't for the movie, if it weren't for the music, the movie would have flopped. Which in reality, that's what happened with Eddie and the Cruisers. When Eddie and the Cruisers was in the movie theater, it flopped.
True.
But MTV started playing On the Dark Side, and it became a cult hit. And then it started airing on cable. And it started going and going and going. And then John started getting offers to do other movies and stuff like that, you know? Like he did songs for Rocky Four.
Wow.
You know?
Well, you know what? I think we are going to have to jump into some more John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band, or Eddie and the Cruisers, because we're coming at the end of the show right now. I want to thank Rob Cardosi as the professor of all things music, and Scott Reece here. We want to thank you guys for checking out our show. Hit us up. We want to hear feedback from you. Correct, Rob?
Yes, definitely. Hit us up on Facebook. I check it every day, and me and Scott will reply to you, and we appreciate all your comments and everything. And next week, keep them. Just hit us up next week. We'll be talking about Ronnie James Dio.
That's right, Ronnie James Dio, the man, the myth, the legend, Ronnie James Dio. All right, thank you all for checking out the Rabbit Hole with Cardosi and Reece. Rob Cardosi, thank you very much. Till next week.
Peace out.
Peace out.